The Chicago Cubs curse. Everyone knows the GOAT. But what if it began not in Chicago, but in the dying days of the Ottoman Empire? A legendary sports hex, decades of heartbreak, all rooted, supposedly, in a single fateful moment of a disgruntled tavern owner and his pet. But beneath the surface of hot dogs and baseball, a deeper, stranger narrative might be playing out. A narrative tied to geopolitical upheaval, to a fallen empire, and to the very human desire for justice. Most people believe the curse began in 1945, Game 4 of the World Series. The Cubs were playing the Detroit Tigers. William Sionis, the eccentric owner of the iconic Billy Goat Tavern, tried to bring his beloved pet goat, Murphy, into Wrigley Field. He'd even bought a ticket for the goat. But the aroma of Murphy, apparently, was too much for fellow spectators. Sionis was promptly ejected from the stadium, goat and all, after arguments with ushers and security. Offended by the perceived insult and the rejection of his good luck charm, Sionis allegedly declared, right there and then, a dire prophecy. The Cubs ain't gonna win no more World Series, not until you let the goat in. And they didn't, for 71 excruciating years. A dynasty of failure, generations of fans enduring agonizing losses. Until, miraculously, in 2016, they finally broke the hex and claimed the championship. This is the simple story, etched into baseball lore, a comical, almost superstitious tale of a goat, a grudge, and a decades-long drought. But the true origin, the real pain behind Sionis' words, runs far deeper. It's a story of displacement, loss, and the echoes of an empire's brutal collapse. William Sionis was not just a tavern owner. He was a Greek immigrant. He came from Palaiurkos, a small, ancient village nestled in Arcadia, Greece, a region with a long, fraught history, under Ottoman Turkish rule for centuries. His family, like millions of Greeks, lived through the final, violent dissolution of the once mighty Ottoman Empire. This wasn't a peaceful decline. It was a cataclysm. The Balkan Wars of 1912-1913, World War I, then the brutal Greco-Turkish War of 1919-1922. These weren't just distant conflicts. They were existential struggles that ripped apart communities and redrew maps. Massacres, forced expulsions, a massive, horrifying population exchange, millions displaced, their ancestral homes lost forever. Sionis himself arrived in America in the early 20th century, fleeing this unspeakable hardship, seeking a new life, but carrying the weight of history. So when Sionis cursed the Cubs, it wasn't just about a goat. It was about everything he and his people had lost, a symbolic outpouring of ancestral grievance, cultural identity, and deep-seated historical trauma. The year 1945, when the curse began, was the end of World War II. But for many Greeks, the wounds of the early 20th century were still fresh, still bleeding. The memory of the catastrophe of Smyrna in 1922, the burning of a vibrant Greek city, thousands dead, millions exiled, was a collective scar. This deep collective trauma, passed down through generations, was carried in the immigrant's heart. The Chicago Cubs, a powerful symbol of American success and stability, suddenly became an unlikely vessel for this ancient, simmering resentment. Sionis' curse wasn't a random outburst, a mere tantrum over a goat. It was a projection, a deep-seated yearning for cosmic justice after witnessing unimaginable suffering and loss. The failure of the Cubs became, in a strange, subconscious way, a reflection of the perceived failures of a global system that allowed such injustices to occur, that turned a blind eye to the suffering of his people. A cosmic symmetry. The fall of an empire, centuries in the making. The failure of a baseball team, decades long, intertwined in one man's psyche, echoing the collapse of his homeland. This story forces us to reconsider the very nature of curses. Are they truly supernatural, mystical phenomena? Or are they perhaps profound, visceral expressions of human pain, suffering, and collective memory? Echoes of history resonating through generations, manifesting in the most unexpected ways and places. The Cubs finally won in 2016. Was it the lifting of a supernatural curse? Or the gradual collective healing of old historical wounds, finally finding a release? Perhaps both. History, it seems, has a long memory, and its curses, symbolic or real, linger far longer than any baseball season. What other hidden connections shape our world, waiting to be uncovered? Keep exploring with the Odyssey Record.